Well, I want to thank you for joining us. I'm Mark Schumacher. I'm the CEO of the Home Furnishings Association. And our webinar today is about CSR, corporate social responsibility. We're going to talk to three people that know a lot about CSR who are going to help all of us understand not only the importance of it and how it works, but also what a huge benefit it can be for your company. And whether you're dabbling your toes in it or you haven't, I think you're going to get a lot of best practices, a lot of great ideas today. And so I'm really looking forward to this conversation. Want to just take care of a couple things real quick here. You notice at the bottom of your screen, there's a Q&A tab. If you have a question that you'd like us to get to, please put it there in the Q&A and we will do our best to get to it. And then also I want to mention that this and all of our webinars are at myhfa.org/webinar. It is in fact our library of tremendous subject matter to where you can on demand take a peek, you can share it with your teams. We know people use them as an educational tool in a lot of different ways. And I always want to make sure that I thank Synchrony. They are the sponsors of our thought leadership here at HFA. And that includes things like this webinar and our seminars at market, things of that sort. So we thank them as well. But let's get to it. Got a great panel today. I'm definitely fourth on the list of who's really going to give you good stuff here. So that's always good. We have Maggie Ellison. Maggie's vice president at Event Marketing Strategies. I love this word. They're an experiential marketing agency, which I think says a lot. So she's going to be able to add a lot to this conversation. So Maggie, thank you for being here. We also have Rebecca Baum joining us all the way from Tel Aviv. Yep, got the long distance award here. She is the senior CSR, corporate social responsibility manager for Riskified. They are an HFA solution partner, and they are an AI powered fraud and risk intelligence platform. They do a lot to protect your business. And she's very much involved on this Riskified Cares, what they call it. That's their CSR. So she's put a lot of this to practice. She also has some interesting background in not-for-profit, which is helpful as well. And then finally, we have Randy Schachter, Chief Marketing Officer for Built Right Furniture in the Milwaukee area. And I just have to tell you, I'm just going to take a little privilege here just to say this. Number one, currently one of our retailers of the year. Number two, it's their 95th year in business. So it's a big year to the point where they actually sent me a lovely mug with both of those things on it. And do I shamelessly display things that I'm sent? Yes, I'll put my address out at the end of this program. But I will say this, what I love about Built Right and with Randy being here is because her family has been committed to community, all kinds of community events and community resources and wonderful connections to all community organizations and supporting them. So that's great. Happy to have you all here. I think I want to start this way, by the way, because I think this is one of those subject matters that you hear corporate responsibility and it's a little bit different from place to place. So Randy, I'm going to start with you. How do you define corporate social responsibility from your seat there at Built Right? How do you define it? What is CSR to you?
CSR to us is it's been ingrained in my family for 4 generations. It's about giving back to the community. So it's been our family motto personally and to our business. And we've always been connected to so many different organizations, from the Grand Avenue Club of Milwaukee. This is going on 17 years of working with them. It's with people with mental illness, and they're basically our custodial staff. So over the years, we probably have had 10 different members of the Grand Avenue Club who are working in the store, and they're the custodial team. And it's so good to give back to that community aspect of things with people with mental illness, to get them back into the workforce. Then it's with United Way with an annual food drive. It's with the homeless veterans of Milwaukee. We always donate furniture items throughout the year to them. And then especially during November, when it's our big, during the Veterans Holiday Weekend, we donate lift chairs and recliners. So it's just been ingrained in me personally. And then we ingrain it to our store, and everybody partakes in it. And it's just it's the culture of our business, is to give back and feel like family. And that also goes back to us not being open on Sundays, where we're very big into saying that on Sundays we're close to be with family. So it's the culture of our store.
I love it. And it's interesting because everything you said there, the thread through all of it's community. Rebecca, I want you to define it as well, since you run a CSR program. Randy just gave us really a laundry list of a great way just to engage. But how do you define CSR from your seat?
Sure. So I would say, about 5 years ago, our CEO, Idel Gal, said, we're a successful company. It's time to give back to our communities. So that's really where it started. How are we going to engage our employees to give back through volunteering? We encourage them to volunteer on company time. Because we're a tech company, we kind of are looking at how can we use our competencies to give back to the community. So a lot of the things that we do is looking at, tech education, entrepreneurial education, professional development. Sometimes we even have some stuff like, volunteering with animals or doing street tree care in Manhattan, because we listen to what our employees want. It's been 5 years and it's definitely grown. So there's the employee engagement through volunteering. That certainly helps with motivation and retention. But we're also looking at diversity, equity, and inclusion. How are we a sustainable company? Even though we're not producing something, how can we maintain sustainability? How can we encourage sustainability? And yeah, again, giving back to the community. Exactly.
Maggie,
Like
Maggie, you just heard a laundry list. I mean, holy smokes, right? I mean, Randy and Rebecca both gave like 10 possible options here. Talk a little bit about that and just the fact of how many opportunities there are out there, and there's really no excuse not to have some sort of CSR.
Yeah, I think those are all really, really valid points. And this can take form in a lot of ways. It's impact at the end of the day. What's the impact that you're having as an organization? So Rebecca just talked about sustainability. Randy talked about community and the give back opportunities. So beyond that, I think you think about things like diversity, equity, and inclusion fits under this category. What are you doing to have an impact on your community as a whole and in this industry? So it stems beyond, there's so many different branches that touch being a corporate, being socially responsible as an organization.
It's interesting because the people that are joining us today or watching this, I'm sure are looking for good ideas and for best. I mean, I know that from questions we've seen come in advance, but it's interesting to me that I guess the question we have to ask is, even if you have really well-oiled CSR systems here, like you guys are involved in, is how you do start, or maybe better than that. Maybe it's not just starting it, but maybe another element of that. One of the things that I hear from so many, and Randy, I want you to respond to this first. What I hear from so many retailers is there's a lot of them that these programs are employee based. What I mean by that is looking to your staff to come up with ideas or entities that they feel compelled to want to support and want the company to do that. Do you deal with that? Is some of this generated from your team as well? And if so, how do you leverage that?
I think it's just built up over the years. So we kind of have it divided up nicely. And if our team has an idea, we'll run with it. We actually, because we're celebrating 95 years, we have something really big coming in October. And we are going to be working with Make-A-Wish. So we try to, you have the Make-A-Wish kids aspect, you have the vets aspect, you have United Way food drive aspect. So we try to diversify it that everybody, all the employees feel included, but if they have an idea, we'll roll with it. But it's just kind of organically happened over time.
We're going to get to that in a bit. And that's a word that I had written down prior to this webinar that I want to talk about, because you said it a second ago. We're going to talk about how this all really ties to your culture as well, because that's a key part of it, right? That's what really cements this. But Rebecca, let me ask you, you had even said that about it being sort of employee driven. You talk a little bit about that, because it is a good opportunity to engage your team as well.
So we do it two ways. I, create a lot of relationships with different nonprofits that we work with, and I offer. But I'll say my favorite is when an employee comes to me with an idea, whether it's an idea of how we can give back, whether it's a nonprofit to work with. I know that employees will be bought in. They will want to volunteer. They'll get their friends to volunteer if they bring the idea to me. That being said, I still offer other opportunities and continue to build those relationships so that we really, like Randy said, is we have a diversity of options for people to get involved.
Maggie, how important is this to have this, in some respects, be very much employee driven, if you will, in certain aspects?
I think it's imperative. To what Randy and Rebecca just said, and I think having a diversification of what you're offering, right? So various nonprofit support, if we're talking about that specifically, but what do your employees care about? And what do you as an organization value what do you value? One of the questions that came in advance was, where do you start? Start with your team, start with your people. Are you asking them what matters to you? What do you care about? I was doing a little bit of digging beforehand and just reading some blogs and articles. And it's amazing how when you start to open up these kind of questions to your team of what causes matter to you, you may find out that you have an employee that's getting ready to send their child to a school for a particular diverse ability for the first time. And all of a sudden you have a cause that you can tie to that matters to somebody, and the people around them matter to them. So it's imperative to have your team buy-in, and that becomes part of your culture. It becomes part of your values and part of what your team as a whole is doing, whether you're a one store operation, an online operation, or multiple stores across the country and the globe. It's your team needs to be a part of those decisions and discussions.
Two things. One, we're always talking about keeping good people, and I can't think of a better retention tool than this, right? If you're really listening to your team, it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to go with the idea, but at least if you're doing that. And second of all, by the way, Justin, I didn't anticipate mentioning this, but you just reminded me, Maggie, back in the day, I'm the parent of a cancer survivor, and I remember how my company rallied behind us for causes that became very important to us, and so that's pretty cool. And I have that in my heart to this day, that connection. So it is very, very powerful. Let me ask this. So with all of that in mind, are there some really good case studies? And Randy, you've talked about a number of things you guys have done. Can you narrow down can you give us one example of when you just think, man, this is how this whole corporate responsibility just sings, just works out beautifully? Can you give a case study as to what you think really is an example of something that's worked beautifully built right in your team?
I would say partnering with the Grand Avenue Club of Milwaukee. It's a local nonprofit, like I was talking about before, that works with people with mental illness, and it's to help them get back into the workforce. They have a clubhouse in downtown Milwaukee. I stumbled upon them maybe 18 years ago through a friend who said, I'm working there. And I said, well, what's that all about? I drive by that building all the time. And he gave me the history on it. And I think he was doing IT work for them. And I knew that we were building the building, the picture behind me, and that we needed like a custodial staff. And I thought this was a great opportunity to give back to the community. And we toured their clubhouse. We started working with them. And since we've been in this location, which is now 17 years, we've always had a member of the Grand Avenue Club, whether it's one or two at a time, working in the store, being part of the team, and they're valued, they're respected. And it's just a really good, warm fuzzy that goes back to and showing to all of our other employees how we care about the community and how we're taking this individual, getting them back into the workforce. They have a meaning to like their life responsibility and coming to work, and most of them take the bus, and they're very much valued just like anybody else. And every year in June, there's a huge big dinner downtown, and we support it, and everybody gets up, they give their story, it's a fundraiser. And we make sure that every employee at our store has been to that annual dinner. And we've been honored in the past, but that's a point that every employee goes to that dinner to understand about the Grand Avenue Club.
It's interesting. I was very, very blessed to be up with Randy and her family to bestow the Retailer of the Year award to them earlier this year. And that entity was represented there. And the level, I will just say this to you, everybody listening, the level of affection, the level of connection was not a put on. It was wonderful to see that. And it just really showed you there's a really great connection. That is terrific. Rebecca, what about you? Is there a case study from your world that also you think is just really crystallizes a lot of what we're talking about?
Absolutely. I had a colleague who just had her son diagnosed with autism. She had done some research and kind of found out that the employment rate for people with autism who could be working the unemployment rate, was incredibly high, something like 70%. She said, this is unacceptable. My son is 5, but this is not a good prognosis. So she wanted to do a mentoring program for people with autism who want to work in tech. One-on-one mentoring for 4 months. We did workshops. So we had lots of volunteers do the workshops, do one-on-one mentoring. And it was a great success. We had our first cohort last year. The interesting thing is, for completely unrelated reasons, she actually left Riskified, was working somewhere else for a few months, came back to Riskified. We call her a boomerang employee. And literally one of the reasons she cited was because of the CSR program. So there's not, it's more than retention. It's, getting, employees to come back. And what's been amazing is we just finished our second cohort of this. We actually opened it up a little bit to also include neurodiverse people. We're partnering with another organization called Guesty. They're another company, I'm sorry. And we just finished that up. And now we're gearing up to do a third one. And we actually hired one of our mentees at Riskified as well. So I just very proud of that project, proud of our volunteers, and just wouldn't have happened had, that employee not approached me, and very proud that she felt that she could trust me with it.
I love how both of you in telling your stories just lit up. I mean, this is clear that it's part of the DNA, which is really kind of cool. Maggie, you've seen a lot, obviously, as well, or any one that you can think of that's just one of those examples that just crystallizes this.
Yeah, before I forget this point, though, the word retention has come up a couple of times, and I know ROI is always, why should we be doing this? What's the investment? What do we get back in this? Retention is one of those measurable ROIs is a part of this. So I just want to put that out there before I share case studies.
Good, no, appreciate that.
Before I forgot. So something super tangible, twofold, same company, Big Lots based here in Columbus. Obviously they're multifaceted, but furniture is a part of their offerings to consumer. In-kind donation is a great way to give back without giving financially, without writing a check, and also gaining exposure for your business. So we partnered with them on an event. They gave us a lot of furniture for Ohio's largest outdoor event. The furniture was mostly indoors at our indoor venues, but that's one prong. And another one that they do that is incredibly easy, so long as you have a good POS system, is a roundup program. Roundup to the nearest dollar. We're talking hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars, that doesn't have any, all you have to do is manage it. So you have a little bit of infrastructure, but it's not your dollars, it's the consumer's dollars. So how can you easily implement something like that? And theirs either goes to, Big Lots goes back to their foundation specifically, or to a cause. And you better bet your bottom dollar that I was giving when it was going to a cause that mattered to me as a consumer. So just a couple of tangible ideas that they do specifically that I think are effective.
Appreciate that. And Randy, you mentioned I know that Built Right does do some in-kind as well. Can you talk briefly about that?
Yes. So we do, well, two ways. We do make dollar donations to the organizations, but then we also do donate recliners, mattresses, to several different causes over the years. It just depends. Like recently, my high school just contacted me because they just redid their entire football field and they want the Built Right player of the game. So 2 recliners are getting donated to my high school. I got to write up the sale right after this. And the superintendent called me last week Friday and I said, done, we're doing it. It's a big deal that an alumni it's connected to this.
For those of you that are unaware, Randy is also the lead face for Built Right on all their advertising. This is why she's getting, I mean, that's not just a great alumni association, but they're nailing her because they see her on TV all the time.
They see me on TV because I'm the spokesperson for the store since 2006. So everyone's seen me get married, have babies, and I'm known as Randy K in the Metro Milwaukee area. So it's like, yeah.
I just love it. And listen, I mean, listen, you can always, you want to have the right to say no to some of these ideas, but that's why I'm sure you get pummeled with those things.
But we're happy to do it. But on a small note, sorry to interrupt, we'll donate like decorative pillows, to raffle. So we always have, an excess of little toss pillows and we'll wrap it up pretty and we'll donate. We do as much as we can because again, it's been ingrained in us as a family. It's always better to give. It's always better to give than to receive.
And not that this is necessarily why, but the thing that I want to really point out and why I'm glad you're on today and can provide sort of be the billboard for this is that it is something that is recognized in the community. This is part of the Built Right brand is this community involvement, and they are the go-to. They're being asked all these things because there's a sense in the community that they're about the community. And I mean, you can listen, you talk about building your clientele, things of that sort, keeping that customer base, growing that customer base. This is why this CSR conversation is so critically important. What I want to ask as well, and I'm actually going to flip this around. I'm going to start with Maggie, with you this time. One of the things that's been sort of an underlying connection here, we talked a little bit about culture. So talk about how this should connect to your core values as a company, or the flip side of that is if you don't have core values that sort of explain what it is that you're all about and doing, the importance of that. Would you talk a little bit about the importance of core values in this conversation, how it ties in?
It's one of my favorite subjects. So core values, if you don't have them, get them. That's usually a good place to start. It's 3 to 5 to 7 a max words, not long phrases, just words that represent you as an organization and as a company. And in this industry, specifically in the furnishings industry, sustainability tends to come, at the top of these lists, and that very well may be part of your core values, or maybe not, and that's okay. But if sustainability surfaces as one of those values, what are you doing to make an impact, and how, on the flip side, are you marketing that? So if you don't have them, get them. And if you do have them, make sure that you're doing something about it. So throwing out a word, if one of your core values is responsible, which is one of ours as a company, what are you doing to your community to be responsible? And have those conversations and discussions with your team to build on that. And that's a great starting point to just, again, somebody asks, where do we start? You start with who you are as a company, and that's your values. And you build on and create a program from, Randy said this multiple times already, but the culture, and then it becomes ingrained in who you are and what you do. And it's how you hire people. It's how you make business decisions.
It's funny because the word I use with what Randy said earlier is community. Community can be one of your core values, right? Because community talks about internal and external. Like you can make that work however you want. Rebecca, what about for y'all is do you tie it to core values, and what role does that play for y'all?
I think what's important for us at Riskified is, people are able to come and be their authentic selves. And so it's important that the CSR be authentic as well. This also helps to prevent, pink washing, greenwashing, those sorts of things. And if we're looking at, value proposition with this, by using a CSR program, if you're being authentic, it is something that you can use towards PR. Gives you a competitive edge. If you're doing something, you're giving back to the community. And then, sorry, I have like a lot of ideas here, but the other thing is, our Gen Z and millennials, they're looking for places that have a positive social impact. They want to work there, and they will leave a workplace if they don't feel that they have that at that company, to go where they think that there is positive impact. So I think it's about our people. It's about being authentic. And that's really what we build in Riskified in general, and then Riskified Cares as well.
Gotcha. And Randy, I want to have you chime in here too. Can you talk a little bit about core values and how this all kind of melds together for you and the team at BuiltRight?
I know, I go back to always saying it's organic. So, it starts with our family. There's 5 active family members, and it's what we bring to our family values to the BuiltRight family. Because I'm here a lot more with the BuiltRight family than I am my own family sometimes. So I think it's just this organic culture of giving back to the community, and that we're not just selling furniture and mattresses. Yes, we're doing that, and we do a lot of it. But at the same time, we need to have this good, warm fuzzy that we do give back to the community, that the customers respect what we do, that they respect us for our values. And it all just kind of circles back. It all goes together. So it goes to it's the company culture. It's all being organic. That's all I can say.
No, what I love about that is this, and this is kind of playing off what Maggie said. We started this question is that, look internally. This is not, this whole CSR concept is not something just to say, oh, just look outside and you're going to pick from a menu. It's like, look inside first. Not only what are your values, but I love what you just said, because the vast majority of our industry are family founded, family run businesses. What's your family all about? what, you know, I'm challenging anybody watching this. What is it that you're really about? That's the organic piece, right? That's
Right.
because Randy, the thing I'm hearing you say is you don't look at it and go, oh, well, there's something we never thought about. Instead of it's like, no, this is like this is what drives us. We're just adding to it. We're not kind of reinventing the wheel each time. Is that fair to say that that's why how the
That's
family?
very much fair to say. And I would say, like, I learned from my great grandfather, may he rest in peace. He's third generation built right. He died 10 years ago. My grandmother's still alive. She's in senior living. If she could still sell today, she'd be here. She sends it up she sends in all her neighbors. They come in. Claire sent me in. We're like, okay, we know where they came from. But it was ingrained from me, from my grandparents, that it's always better to give than to receive. I said this before, and I think that's what we pass on to our employees here. That we treat them like it's the built right family and team that we always say.
Okay.
So, and we try to divide it up throughout the year, that we're doing things, by the quarter. What year round, it's the Grand Avenue Club of Milwaukee. November, it's the homeless vets and United Way. And then also we give, instead of throwing out all of our discontinued fabric swatches, we donate them to the Grand Avenue Club's, their clubhouse, and they take the old fabric swatches and they make quilts out of them. So they're getting the members engaged. It's not going
Love
into a dumpster, into the, it's just there's one little small aspect of it.
I just love it. And Maggie, I want to kind of circle back to you because the core values should be part of your culture, and not just sort of a check the box. Oh, we have core values. Here's our 5 core values. Can you talk a little bit about how these types of programs help to really make sure that they're cemented in your culture going forward?
That's a great question. I think it goes back to revisiting that. This is a good topic, thinking about social responsibility, to revisit values. And if you're already supporting community or nonprofit organizations, looking at that list and putting that right up against what are our core values, and are those aligning? And the best way to come up with those, if you don't have them already, is again to look internal, and you ask your team, what are words you would use to describe how we operate as an organization? Words, not phrases. And that helps to develop those, but really putting that all up against each other. And if you're not doing community outreach, going to those values, and okay, sustainability is one of them. What are we doing? Asking yourself a question for each one of those words. How are we committing to this? What can we be doing more of? One of the things I like to ask my team, just from a leadership perspective, is what do we want to keep doing? What do we want to stop doing? And what do we want to do more of? So keeping that in mind as you're going through each of those words and figuring out how to put that corporate social responsibility plan together, or revamping it if you're already feel that you're doing good work in that space.
And I don't know if anybody has gone through it before. I've gone through it 3 times over the last number of decades, hence the gray hair. The fact that coming up with core values is something that is a complete team effort. Everybody should have, at least, doesn't mean that everybody decides that you have to have consensus, but that process is important, because exactly what Maggie said, you got to ask that question. What are the words you would use? And then everybody can kind of really discuss it. And I think that's really, really key. Let me ask this. I don't want this to sound negative, but I think we got to talk about it. So Randy, I'm going to start with you on this one. So for any entity out there that's looking for some other causes, other things to do to add to these types of programs, what do you guys do to vet a community organization? Because just because somebody's a 501c3 does not mean that they're necessarily run well, or that there might not be some other issues. What's the best way, do you feel, to vet these options that come at you all the time, people asking you to get involved in stuff?
I mean, we say yes to as many as possible, but kind of we get a little pick and choosy of what we're going to do and who we're going to use. But I think the big ones we have great relationship with, and we know that they're like a legitimate good cause. The smaller ones that come to us, we'll do some research as best as we can. And again, I would say we say yes to more, we say more yeses than we say no to, let's put it that way. But it goes across the board, from big donations, items being donated, dollar amounts being donated, to, like I said, like little small, like a gift basket for
Right.
like a church fundraiser. So
Great.
it's really across the board, and we'll just kind of like, we can look them up and see, is this the right way for us to go? But
Right. The right fit.
yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
Fair. Rebecca, what about you all? Do you guys, if somebody comes up with an idea, an employee does or whatever, how do you make sure that you're tying your company brand and image to something that's going to be positive?
I'm definitely with Randy, and I want to try to support as many as possible. But yeah, we do have a budget, and we have to consider that. So I think a few things that I consider are, do they fall within those pillars that I talked about earlier: tech, entrepreneurship, education. If an employee brings me an idea, it's usually because they have some sort of experience with them already. So it's somebody I can trust. It's a nonprofit I can trust. But it still has to sort of fall within, those pillars. And then it's a lot of relationship building. I don't tend to do one-off volunteering opportunities or one-off donations. It's more about, annual sponsorships, making sure the different nonprofits, the charities are giving us volunteer opportunities. So I actually have my employees going in and making sure it's not the purpose of it. The purpose is for them to give their time and to give back. We can see how things are being run. And yeah, there has been times, unfortunately, where I've had to say, we're cutting ties with certain nonprofits because they just weren't giving us what we needed anymore. But it's constant. And the other thing is as our population, our colleagues, my employees grow and develop and change and evolve, what our focus is on might also change. And it's just
Right.
continually talking to our employees and seeing like where their interests lie.
Yeah, I mean, I hear you both saying it really evolves. And so Maggie, I want you to kind of punctuate this because we have to remember. And by the way, I just adore the fact that Randy, you and Rebecca both are saying, we love to say yes. There's nothing better than that, right? That just feels so good. But Maggie, this is also tying their brand, their name to another entity. And there's got to be at least some care taken. Can you talk a little bit more about that? Because, I think that stops some companies from doing a lot because they're concerned about that. And I'm trying to sort of circumvent a little bit of that now. But what are your thoughts on that?
Goes somewhat back to values. Rebecca used the word pillars, and I think that's a terrific word to have when you think about nonprofits. We all want to support every single request that comes into us at some point. We've given what we can for the year. We've hit our quota. We've hit what we're able to give financially or in kind. So what are those pillars? I have them as an individual. I will only serve on boards and give of my time, treasures, and talent to things that fit within certain categories. For me personally, that's anything that impacts women, children, education, and theater. If it falls outside of that, I have got to learn how to say no as a person. Apply that to your business. What are your pillars? What are your causes? What matters to your employees? And something to tag on to that, if you're not doing it, that could incentivize your employees to get more engaged and involved in this work is some type of company match. It doesn't have to be much, but if your employees are donating financially to a cause that matters to them, maybe it's not in your 4 pillars, or maybe it is, whatever those pillars are. Offering an opportunity to financially match or to give back to the causes that your team is bringing forward to you.
Love that. And by the way, it just came to mind too that I passed Retailer of the Year winner from a few years ago. One of the things that they do is they have a second chance program. So they're giving jobs to people that have been released from prison. Now that's not for everybody, but that kind of just makes you step back and think, wow, that's somebody that's really trying to make a statement in their community. Let me ask this one, and Randy, I'm going to start with you because you are the retailer on this panel. There are a number of colleagues of yours, meaning other business owners around the country, that also do a lot with in-store events. They might host a non-for-profit doing something in the store. Have you done that? And what are your thoughts about that, good or bad? Because there's a lot of places that like to say, hey, let's have that group have their little, something in here, not necessarily a huge event, but have something in here because you're bringing people into your store.
Oh, I mean, we love the idea. We've done it in the past pre-COVID. Now we're finally getting out of this COVID world, and we're hoping to do some events before winter, because you can't do them during winter in Wisconsin because it's predictable.
Yes, this is true.
Yeah, very much true. So we're actually, it's on our list to do for, still part of this year. We have a big 95th, and there's a big thing coming down the pipeline. And it's going to be happening in October, where we're going to be doing something that's going to be giving back to the community, to our employees, families. We're hosting on a Sunday when the store is not open, and we're doing like a big family fun day. And this is a way to give back to, our family, to our employees' families, and to the community, to the customers. And we're going to just be having a big family fun day at the store on Sunday. We're closed for shopping, but we're open for having fun. So
Cool.
this is going to be, and then we're benefiting Make-A-Wish Wisconsin with
Love
this
it.
too. So
Love
there's
it.
the kids aspect, we've got mental illness, we've got kids, we've got the vets. So now we're bringing in Make-A-Wish Wisconsin. So we're working on this really hard right now, and we're so excited. It's coming up in October. There's going to be more details on our website, but here's an event that we're doing outside that is going back to a nonprofit, and it's also having fun. And instead of having some type of like big gala or dinner, let's just have family fun, because we're all about family time. On Sunday, we're close to be with family. So this is a way to give back to everybody. And this might become an annual thing. We'll see how it goes, but we're really excited. And we've been planning this as like after the big HFA win in March. So
Love that. Yeah, yeah, that was a that was a good, that was a
fun.
great,
That was fun,
and
Mark.
that was awesome though.
It was off the charts
Meg,
fun. Yeah.
Maggie, you like hearing that as well about making sure that it's not just, oh, we're doing these things for these charitable entities and these community organizations, but bringing them in sometimes. How do you feel about that, and how that can play into this?
As Randy was talking, I just kept thinking purpose over profits, and profits take care of themselves. So what are you asking the organizations that you're partnering with? And this is not just all about giving back to nonprofits, right? There's a lot of pieces of corporate social responsibility, but what need can you fill? Time, talent, treasures, what need can you help an organization fill? Is it space? Is that what they're needing at that time? So I would say yes. I think it's also a great touch point from a sales perspective when we think about ROI. And there's a reason to give back expecting nothing in return. But I will tell you, the return, it happens naturally. It's just going to, because when you have your heart in something like this, the community, people realize, they recognize it, they realize it, they notice it. And when you're exposing people to your brand in a way that has impact and is meaningful, it matters. So I would say yes, any opportunity to host something at, on premise, or even pop-up opportunities, if there's some kind of social cause that's a piece of that, it's all going to be very positive.
And Rebecca, yeah, jump in, please.
Thank you. Sorry. No, so we're not a traditional retailer having like a space like that, that's open to the public, but we do also host quite often different nonprofits as part of our volunteering, actually. So we've done over International Women's Month, we hosted a organization in Israel called Tech Career, which works with Israeli Ethiopians. And we did a professional development day for the women there, for the women that work for the organization, as opposed to their constituents. And in New York, we actually hosted Build New York City. We had a CV clinic for high school students who were finishing high school. How do you build your CV if you don't really have the experience? And a lot of what happens when we bring those constituents and those populations in, they haven't actually had exposure to sort of a tech company before. And just being able to come in and see also not just, you can be a developer, you can be in research, but there's diversity of jobs that exist there. I'm not tech. I work in corporate social responsibility, and I'm very successful in the tech world as well. And just really exposing people to understand their opportunities out there that they might not traditionally have in their schools and stuff like that.
Okay. And I think the other kind of takeaway underlying this whole thing is it does not require a, hey, look at us, right? I mean, it can just be, just by doing it, there's a promotional value that's intrinsic with that, just out of the gates. And, I think that's really, really important. So I guess there was one of the things that I had in the pages of notes here prior to that I want to just ask them. So what do you think, and I'm going to throw this out as a jump ball, so whoever wants to answer this one first can go for it. What do you think, therefore, is the best way to promote your corporate social responsibility program? What's the best way to promote it?
I would put it on your website, on your giving back page. You have to promote it on social media. You have to have in-store signage. That's kind of like that's our go-to.
I love that giving back page. So there's now I refer to that as wearing it on your sleeve, right? If it's part of your culture, then it should be kind of a thread throughout. Okay, love that. What Rebecca, Maggie, what do y'all think? What would you say is the best way to promote a program like
So
this?
I'm fortunate that I'm on what's called the People Brand and Experience team, so employer branding and connected with marketing and PR, and they do an excellent job for Riskified. And because I'm on the team, they really help to put the efforts that I do out there in social media, exactly like Randy said, social media, website. But also our employees are our ambassadors as well. And when they get involved and they're happy and they see the wonderful things that we are doing, they're talking to their friends and their networks. And that's super powerful as well.
Okay. Maggie, what do you think?
And I'll just build on that. I think you definitely everything that's already been said. One thing that could be a spinoff that maybe we don't think about as often is partnership and sponsorship. So as a brand, how do you get involved outside of your walls? Community events, local opportunity to expose your brand beyond just, hi, we're marketing our business, come into our store and buy a mattress. But using an example, I work in the fair and festival industry, partnering with a fair and festival and tying it to an internal employee resource group. Let me use veterans and military as an example. So if you're a furniture retail store and you're partnering with an event and you're tossing sponsorship dollars at an event, don't just call it XYZ company day at the fair. You're exposing your brand to 100,000 people. Tie it back to a cause. Veterans and military, get in for free. Host a lounge. Put your furniture in there. So you have multiple touch points. When people walk into the gate, have them pick up a flag that showcases which branch of the military they've served for and put it on a map. Then your logo's on that and you're subtly tying back to something that matters to you and having an impact. And that's how it comes full circle. So it's not always about, here's our logo, here's the support we cause on a billboard, the cause we support on a billboard, but making it that's where my world comes in an experience, but making it a true experience for the consumer where they're naturally engaging with your brand and the causes that you're supporting.
I love that. And it's really funny. And Randy, when you talked about, your give back page and doing all of that, I'm just going to throw in one little asterisk on the sentence. And that is that I think that's smart. I think the companies that truly promote that way are really out there. But just remember, you better live up to it. There's nothing worse, right, than having all the boxes checked on a great giving back page, and then it's just a house of cards. There's nothing behind it. So you have to. That's why I say wear it on your sleeve, right? You guys do that. I mean, there's no.
We wear it on our sleeve. We wear it in our lounge where all of our customers can, like, when they're finishing up their sales and they're getting water, coffee, candy, whatever, cookies. They're seeing it all up on the history wall of, we call it like the wall of fame of customers who send us pictures of their furniture, nice notes, letters. We have all the charities mixed in, and they just, to me, it's just this nice, warm, fuzzy feeling of like, I made the right choice at Built Right, because look, they're family, they give back to the community, and they're seeing it all there. So yeah, we do wear it on our sleeve.
I love it. I love that. And I think, Maggie, I saw you kind of nodding. You understand what I'm saying there, though, too, is to anybody out there that's putting this together, is Built Right does that, wears it on their sleeve, puts it out there as their page, because they live it. They walk the walk. My point is, be careful. Don't overblow it, because you got to listen. This is about community trust as well, right? I mean, you've got to make sure that what you're doing is building confidence from there as well. And you don't want to make a misstep. Am I overstating that, Maggie, or what do you think?
Yeah, if you're going to walk the walk, talk the talk and walk the walk, for sure. And just thinking generationally, this was mentioned a little bit, millennials, your generation Y, they care. Gen Z is going to demand to see your plan. And Gen A, let's not even get started. They're not even past, the fourth grade quite yet, but it's going to be demanded from the generation of workers, of employees. And that's how you can use that as a recruiting tactic and a recruiting tool as well, but don't put stuff out there that you're not aligning with, that you're not actually following through with.
And Rebecca, I saw you nodding too. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's just Maggie and Randy, everything, and you, Mark, everything you said. I mentioned it before about being authentic, and I always say, we can put the information out there confidently as Riskified because we are doing what we're saying we're doing, and we don't over promise. And yeah, I know for a fact, when our candidates are asking about our social, responsibility, what are we doing? Our merchants are asking about it. About environmental social governance policies as well. It's a little bit more on the governance side, but we're being asked these questions. And I would say that there was a time where CSR was a nice to have. I think it's becoming something that we need to have.
The norm.
Must.
Yeah.
Agreed. Let me ask you this too, and Randy, I'm going to start with you on this one. I've heard there's been feedback I've gotten from some retailers that a concern sometimes of theirs is that, oh man, we don't want to support something that's going to in any way alienate members of the community, because a lot of the social responsibility things we're talking about, even let's face it, in this day and age, even DEI is not always met with warm fuzzies from everybody. So is there any advice you could give from that standpoint to, you want to do what's right, but is there a concern about stepping on toes, or do you just say no, that we believe in this cause, we move forward, and that's what we're all about?
No, we believe in this cause, and we think it's the right thing for our store and our team, and we just go with it. And I think everyone that we partner with, it all makes sense, and it's very much well respected. So
Rebecca,
we just go for it.
Good.
I say the same. If you tie it back into what the core values are, if you let that guide you, then you know that what you're doing is right. And you're right, you might step on some toes along the way. You have to be okay with that. But if you are letting your core values guide you, your employees, you're listening to your merchants, those sorts of things, then the toes that you're going to step on are probably the toes you don't care as much about, to put it lightly.
Always going to step on somebody's toes, so you just need to
exactly
business.
Yeah, yeah. There's a couple of major retailers in our industry that have very robust social responsibility platforms, and they're okay with, if you're not comfortable shopping here because of what we support, that's okay. Maggie, I don't want that to sound cavalier, but in the same respect, this gets back to a word I keep hearing everybody talk about in this conversation is authenticity. Can you talk a little bit about that, if for those that might be concerned about alienating anybody?
If it matters to you, stay the course. I was just at a luncheon last week, and that was probably one of my biggest takeaways. The topic was actually on diversity, equity, and inclusion, and how some companies now that there's not this new mandated thing out there to regulate this, that they just they're kicking people off their team left and right. Well, what does that say about them? It says they don't care about that. So do you care about it? What is that thing that you care about? And if it matters to you, stay the course, because that's your bandwagon, right? Those are the people that are going to jump on with you. And to Rebecca's point, those are toes you probably don't need swimming in the pool. So if it matters, stick to it.
You're the most quotable person on this webinar. I already love purpose over profits. Anybody watching this, if you haven't stolen that already, you should. I love that. And if it matters to you, stick to it. I love that. There's been, there was a number of questions that came in from folks that are joining us today that they were asking, and I wanted to just get back for a second about, we skimmed over ROI. Is there, Randy, is there a way to measure what you guys do from that social responsibility and community connection standpoint? Are there measurables there, or is it anecdotal and you just know from all the other things going on?
I think it's just from all the other things, is we can just analyze it from our gut. I mean, when you have the customers coming in and they're telling us they love what we do, I mean, we don't need to run, it's our gut, it's our feeling, our business is solid, our business is growing. I think it's all comes together with what we're doing, and the consumer wants to shop and give and support a business that cares and gives back to the community and to their employees. So I think what speaks is how we're doing as a store, and we're doing very well.
I just love it. Because Maggie, that's Randy and her family are exactly that. If it matters to you, stick to it. I mean, they're just you guys are just like unequivocally on it, and I think that's really, really cool. Rebecca, what about you? Is there a, from where you guys sit, is there an ROI that's tangible, or is it just more of that anecdotal kind of feel sort of a situation?
I think from the employee perspective, it tends to be a little bit more anecdotal. We can have surveys, we have engagement surveys, so we can ask the questions there, and we see positive feedback on that. But we have our online merchants. We work with online merchants, and the questions about CSR or DEI or sustainability are part of the RFPs. So yeah, like we thankfully haven't lost out on anything, but if we aren't doing it, there could be a potential that a competitor could kind of swoop in. So these questions are being asked by investors, by our merchants, by our partners. While I can't quantitate that, it's there and it's important.
It's part, and to both of your points, it's a part of the conversation. Maggie, you want to weigh in on that too, as far as some of the ROI potentials for this, or how you measure it, or if it really matters truly or not?
Yeah, well, data will show you that by being socially responsible as an organization, you'll automatically reap results financially. What is that data? Data will show you a couple of things. I talked about retention. So if you do not have a financial value assigned to what it costs you financially, your bottom line, to replace a member of your team, figure that out. And if you are retaining people year over year, I can promise you, there is financial value in retention. So number one, figure out what that is for your organization and for, various levels of associates. And number two, sustainability as a piece of being socially responsible as an organization. In manufacturing, in, where you are, I'm sure there's a lot of different, miniature industries within the industry represented here, but what can you do to shave off expense and be more sustainable at the same time, so that you're seeing those bottom line impacts, and then you're automatically looped into this big thing that we're abbreviating as CSR. But those are direct financial bottom line ROI impacts above and beyond just knowing that what you're doing is, if it's the right thing to do, everything else is going to relatively naturally fall into place.
Well, I'm going to lob this one up to you, Randy, because you guys have a staff of people that have been with you for a long, long time. This has got to be part of it, right?
Definitely it's part of it. And I think when we're going on 7 years in October, that we decided to say Sunday closed with family. In 1984, we opened up in 1984, we started opening on Sundays. And then in 2016, we started closing on Sundays again. And we've been doing a whole campaign on it. Every Sunday we run our Sunday Close with Family commercial. We share it on social media. It's in our DNA now, and the consumer loves what we do. And that also goes back to why our employees like working retail, because they don't have to work Saturday and Sunday, and they have one day off. They have Sunday off to do whatever they want to do. And it makes our store, we like to say we do 7 days of business in 6 days, and we really do. But that helps to keep our staff here. And we've added more staff members here, team members, because of our hours, because of what we do to give back to the community, and all the other wonderful things that we do have, knock on wood, a lot of a long retention here of employees.
And Maggie, let me ask you this question. Is Built Right, and there's some other retailers that do this, by closing on Sunday, which in and of itself is not necessarily a community benefit, but it's an huge internal benefit. Do you consider that under the CSR umbrella? Because that community, the social responsibility, in this case, the social responsibility being to their team members, families, et cetera. Can you fit that under CSR?
Yeah, it's a value of the organization. And it goes back to, if it matters to you, stay the course. And that matters. And it's coming full circle based on what Randy just said. They're able to probably recruit talent from other competitors because they have a value proposition that is maybe more outstanding than their competitor. So they're getting and retaining that employee, which drives bottom line impact.
I'm just sitting here, and this is one of those moments that didn't hit me until just now. That's really interesting, because so we could expand this conversation to say anything that you do culturally as a business, even if it's not donating to United Way or doing things like we're talking about here, which are some of the really great causes and standard things like that. But anything you're doing that impacts the community, and that community includes your staff, is part of the social responsibility. And maybe I'm just, and Rebecca's nodding like, Mark, how did you not know that? Are you thick as a brick, like the bricks behind you? And I would say, of course I am. But no, that just hit me. So Rebecca, I mean, go ahead and jump in on that, because that's a really interesting point, to not think of it as being just these external programs or bringing in out external. Now we're tying a lot more to CSR than I even imagined.
Well, diversity, equity, and inclusion is not necessarily external, right? It's internal. Inclusion
Sure.
and belonging is looking at your workforce, and are they happy where they're working? Do they feel included? Do they feel like they belong? And I 100% would say that social responsibility is outward looking. It's how can we impact our communities, but it's also caring about your employees and their families, which I think is amazing that Built Right is considering that. It extends. There are your other beneficiaries. And I just want to say, I had a quote a few years ago from one of the employees who, jokingly was like, yeah, I kind of like, selling my soul sort of to work at Riskified, working in business sort of thing. But what really is beautiful is that you as CSR, you're giving the company a soul. To me, I like still, it's like goosebumps from that.
Wow.
It's a compliment, but the fact that they felt, I'm happy to work here and I'm okay to be on the for-profit side because we have this impact, we have this give back that gives the company a soul. Right? That what quantitative data do I need beyond that? Yeah.
No, you're just, I mean, I'm not going to lie. That just nailed me, because I love those kind of metaphoric things like that. And the soul of a business, gosh, you can put so much into that. And I think that's what we've been talking about today. I'm really glad we kind of came around to that, because if that doesn't get anybody watching this to say, I want to expand what we're doing or think about this differently, or how holistic it is to the entire business. Wow. We have just a couple of moments. I'm going to give some opportunities for some last words based on that. Randy, I saw you nodding and smiling. The soul of your business, are you feeling that? Is that something that really describes it?
We've been feeling this 100%. Like for the Sunday thing, we've been feeling this for 7 years now. Every day we hear from a customer why they love shopping with us is because we care about families, and then on Sunday we're closed, and that we're old school. And you don't find that in this world anymore in 2023. So I think they just really, it hits the heart of what we do, and that they feel like they should come and shop and support us. So
Heart and soul. Holy smokes.
Yeah,
how did we
heart and soul.
get here?
Yeah.
Maggie, I'll let you wrap this up. This is terrific, but that also gets back to where we started this conversation. This is about values, culture, all this sort of the heart and soul of it. Maggie, I'm going to give you last word today.
A lot of pressure. I
Tons.
really, the end of the day, it's about the impact, kind of circling back to that word. What impact are you having? What impact do you want to have? And that is intrinsic and extrinsic. And I'll leave it at that.
If I had a microphone, I wouldn't just drop it. I would spike that sucker right now. Let me just say that. First of all, I think this has been huge. I feel like I'm walking away from this with just such a better perspective. And the only reason I can say that is because the three of you have really brought some amazing insights to this, huge takeaways, and purpose over profits. You heard it here first. We're going to take credit for it, even though Maggie said it. I want to thank our guest today, Maggie Ellison, Vice President, Event Marketing Strategies. Thank you so much for all that you've added today. Rebecca Baum joining us all the way from Tel Aviv, Israel. And she is with Riskified. She is their senior CSR manager. And Randy, you know that I just respect the heck out of you and your family and the business you're doing. I thank you for being here and letting everybody know what I already knew about how you approach it and how you guys are so community forward. So thanks to the three of you. And of course, I always like to end every webinar by wishing everybody who's joined us or is watching this, I want you to have not only great sales, but great health as well. I'm Mark Schumacher on behalf of all of us here at the Home Furnishings Association. We look forward to seeing you next time.
Thank you.
Thanks.